Welcome to our monthly story swap here on the harbor. And I'll tell you what, next month is going to be our last one here, and then we're going to start telling over at Traditions Cafe, the Soul Cafe over at Traditions. So we hope you'll all come and see us when we move. So on this beautiful evening, the world right here is very good, isn't it? Are we lucky? So welcome, and thank you for coming to listen to our storytellers. Tonight, our featured teller is Ingrid Nixon. Ingrid is right here, and Ingrid is one of our longtime guild members. I still remember hearing one of her first stories. She and her husband, Ingrid was a national park ranger, and they got their first house together, I think, with a yard that they never had before. And she told her story was about how they had to decide how they're going to cut the yard, because one person wanted to cut the edging and then do the rest of it. And the other wanted to do the main thing and then do the edging. So it was probably a pretty big marital spat, but they finally got it settled. And Ingrid and her husband now have something called Apex Expeditions, where they take tours to the Antarctic. And Ingrid got back just 48 hours ago from the northern Norway, where they were on an expedition up there. So she's done quite a bit, and she's been a storyteller in residence back in Tennessee, and it goes on and on and on. So I won't tell you everything, but go to ingridnixon.com and you can read all about her, and it's pretty darn fascinating. So before we get going, we're on Zoom. We'd like to say hi to all of you up there, and please mute your Zoom mics if you would, please, and also please keep your video on, because we all like to see your pretty faces and know that we actually have other people joining us. And please also do not chat during the storytelling. We'll have a break in about an hour, and there'll be 10 minutes when you can shoot the breeze with each other. So can everybody hear me okay on Zoom? Get a thumbs up? Got a good thumbs up? Okay, thank you. So Ingrid has been, over the last 30 years, traveling to the Antarctic many times with tour groups and by herself. And I think tonight she's going to tell about one of the Antarctic explorers. And I don't know if the guy ever made it actually to the South Pole or not. Did he make it all the way there, Ingrid?
Yeah, listen to this.
Well, there's more to come. I've heard it before, but the interesting part of the story, even if he didn't make it, was what happened next. It's a pretty unbelievable story. So Ingrid, please come up and tell our story. Give a hand to it.
Thank you, Sted.
Thanks, Ingrid. Well, what an evening. I think I've heard some of that story before, but it's great to hear it again and learn something new. Well, my question, Ingrid, is, were the three sporting girls put in the possibility pile or the mad? And the other thing you never have explained is they did the scientific analysis of whiskey, but what happened to the whiskey? So there's always something new to learn. But anyway, thank you for the great story. And if you'd like to hear more of Ingrid's stories, go to ingridnixon.com. She lives up in Homer, Alaska, which is at the end of the road. And she has a radio program called Story Borealis on the radio. So tune into it and hear some of her other stories. So once again, thank you. What a fabulous time to see you. So with that, we're going to take a commercial break before we go into our story swap. And Jerry, I think would like to tell you about something that's going to happen in June. We have another fabulous storyteller telling different stories will be here. So Jerry, would you like to tell the folks about what's going to happen in June?
So Ingrid, it was a splendid moment. Thank you so much. There we go. More. There we go. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you about another professional teller that we have coming to Olympia, and we're going to do this event in Traditions, and it's going to be on June 10th of 2026. Our teller is a gentleman named Will Horniak, and he's an extraordinary storyteller. He comes to us from Portland, Oregon, and has quite a repertoire. But we'd like to invite you to come to that event. please make reservations if you plan to come to eat or want your table reserved there at Traditions. But again, June 10th, it's a Wednesday. It's at 7 p.m. And the little restaurant there, which serves some pretty delicious food, opens at 5:30 for dinner. So you can come early, have some dinner, or if you'd like just a coffee and a treat, a really good venue. But we're looking forward to having Will. He does all sorts of things. We're not 100% sure what he's going to do for us, but Irish myths, Russian fairy tales, Arabian legends, all sorts of different things. But he's has quite the resume also. So it promises to be a night every bit as delightful as what we've had here tonight, with more space and hopefully more people. So tell your friends and invite others. So June 10th. 6, 7 o'clock, and there's information about this on our website also in case you forget or need some more details. So I encourage you to come. Yep. I've got a handful of flyers. I'm going to circulate these around. You can take one and leave it or put it on your ice box or your refrigerator. We don't have ice boxes anymore, and as a reminder. So please take these or circulate them amongst your friends.
Thanks, Jerry. So that's, we're going to take about a 10-minute break, but along with anything else we need to add, Brett, to everybody? Coming to the great part. Notice this can up here. It's not quite full of money, but anyway, we want to hear the soft rustle, not the clinking of coins. So seriously, if you want to support our efforts with our insurance and other things that we have to pay for, please feel willing to contribute or to join the Story Guild. We appreciate it, especially the fact that you've come here, because otherwise we're just telling stories to ourselves or to our wives or husbands or whatever, and they get kind of tired of them, not for a while. Anyway, so thank you again for coming. We'll take a 10-minute break. We'll ring the bell, and then we'll get started again. We've got Ann Penfound from Portland, who's on Zoom. Will be telling a story. Ann is a great storyteller. She'll open it up. After that, anybody's got a story to tell, we invite you to stay and tell a story. Barbara said she's obviously going to tell a story, so. Pardon me?
Let's, somebody in the audience knows.
Yep, let me know about it. And if you're on Zoom, put it on chat, please. So once again, about a 10-minute break. And thank you very much for coming. If you can't stay any longer. Let everybody have fun, and you all get to meet. I was going to say, when you take the break, you always need to go. So, okay. So as you know, these events are always recorded, and we do have them on our website if you'd like to go back and listen to a particular teller. So tonight, let's see, is Ann Penfound up yet? Ann, are you on?
Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear, Ann. Everybody else
Okay.
is good. So Ann,
Okay, thank you.
the Portland Storytellers Guild. In fact, she's one of the directors of the guild, which is very well organized, where of course it's pretty informal. And love Ann, and love going to our storytelling retreats. And once a year I get a big hug from her because she comes to our retreats and we're not just looking at her on Zoom. So Ann, would you lead off with a story, and then after you're done, we'll have the story swap with other people. So please give a hand, Ann Penfound. Thank you.
Well, I entitled this story Blue Yeti in the enhancement button because it's all Ingrid's fault, and that's why I'm telling it tonight. It only comes out once a year, maybe, and I've only been telling it for 2 years, so I just wanted to let you know that when we start. It's all about the fact that I have never been much good with technology. The internet kind of scares me. And so because I love storytelling, I had to bring myself into the storytelling world. And I'm just looking for myself so I can talk to myself. Okay. I I I pulled myself into technology because of oral storytelling. And I wanted to make some recordings of my voice. And I wanted a better microphone than my computer microphone. So what I did was did some research and I found this machine called the Blue Yeti machine, which seemed to do all the things that I wanted it to do at a price I could afford. I mean, I had this grand idea, you see. Not only would I pull myself into the 21st century, but I would run a podcast or become a fairly well-known name in the storytelling world. And this Yeti would do it for me. I waited with bated breath for it to arrive. And when it did, it came in a big box about 15 inches tall. And I unboxed it, and out came this machine. And I thought, whoa, that obviously means business. But when I got the instructions out, I have to tell you, I was in one of those, I'm no good at this mode. And just could not make head nor tail of the instructions. Even by the end of the day, nothing. So I boxed it back up again, that Yeti, and I put it under the table for another day. Well, I'm ashamed to tell you, and I know other people do this as well, so it's not that bad, is it? Another day turned into a week turned into a month, and the month leaked into a year. But then COVID happened, and I had to get a grip because oral storytelling went viral. And I had to go viral. I had to go virtual, not viral, virtual. So I had to get a grip. I got out the Blue Yeti. I read the instructions again, and it still didn't make that much sense to me. So I went on YouTube. And long and short of it is, eventually I got the hang of what it was all about. Then, of course, we were all on Zoom. I had to learn Zoom as well. That took me a little bit longer than I thought, but eventually I only know the basics, right? So I got on the screen of Zoom and I'm looking around trying to find my way. And I found this button. It said the enhancement button. I wonder what that does. I thought, boom, I pressed it. Wow. You should have seen my eyes. They turned an iridescent turquoise, and my face became thinner. I lost my double chins. I made a mental note to keep that button on. It seemed rather important to me when I was doing my zooming. I tried it out the first time. There was a storm brewing. I heard the thunder in the distance and I thought, look, I've set this aside to get a recording of my voice. I'm going to try and tell a story and get a good result. So I ignored the storm and pressed record and smiled. But then a lightning flash and lit up the whole room, and immediately there was a crash of thunder. And I thought, I wonder if it's recording. I wonder if it's recording. But I carried on anyway. But immediately, I had only got 2 words out. There was another. And my Blue Yeti began to glow. A blue light emanated from it, and it began to pulse like a beacon. It was making my head dizzy. I thought, oh no, vertigo, vertigo. I don't need vertigo. And then I was sucked with an incredible force, longer and thinner, like strands of wet spaghetti. I was pulled towards the strainer end of my microphone and inside. There I was twisted and twirled and stretched until I was long and thin and propelled along the electric cable and what? Projectile vomited out of the electrical socket at the other end. I was so dizzy and discombobulated. Everything tingled. I couldn't see a thing until I gradually began to get back to normal and focus. I had been projectile vomited right out in front of a mirror. And when I looked in that mirror, I was skinny. I definitely was skinny. I think that was a size 12. I knew how to test that. I had a pair of size 12 jeans in the drawer. I went for the size 12 jeans. I put them on. They fit me without even lying down to be able to do up the zip. Thoughts of wonder enveloped me. New hairstyle, eye makeup and lipstick, new clothes, new Anne. Who knew? My standing there, adoring myself in the mirror, quickly changed because there was another. The room lit up, and I felt something happening to my body again. The seams of those size 12 jeans ripped asunder. I expanded back to my normal shape. And there were rips in my jeans all over the place. Well, as you can understand, that was a kind of a horrific experience going from slim to bigger sizes. So I didn't tell anybody about it for a good while. But then the following week, my granddaughter came to visit me, and I told her the story. She said to me, Grandma, that's a bit far-fetched for you. Even though you're a storyteller, it's a bit far-fetched. Where's the evidence? Well, of course, I'd kept the evidence, hadn't I? I mean, I'd stuck it back in that drawer in the room, so I got them out and give them a shake. And she said, Wow, can I try them on? And I thought, well, of course you can try them on. I mean, they're size 12, they don't fit me. And if I were to try and squeeze into them, you can imagine what people would say. Oh, there goes mutton dressed up as lamb. You know, of course she could try them on. Well, she looked fabulous and she was chuffed about these jeans. She said, well, can I have them? I said, yes, take them away. Well, I didn't expect her to come back and visit me the following week. She usually leaves it a bit longer between visits. And she came back with 5 pairs of secondhand jeans. And she said, Grandma, my friends, they really think the jeans are fab. Could you make some more? 5 times changing shape. I said, look, I'll do it for you this once. We'll do 5 if we can achieve it. I don't know whether we can achieve it or not. And then that's it. No more. There's only so much a 70-year-old plus age group grandma can change size without damaging something. Fair enough. Her friends bought the jeans. She made a fair amount of money. And I had a little bit of spare time. I said, you should call yourself TJ Jeans. Her initials are TJ. So TJ jeans ripped to perfection. But I have to tell you that there's a little bit of addition onto this story now because there's only so many split jeans that frayed jeans that you could have in the world. So I've suggested she move on. And I want to show you what I've come up with for her. And she's done some, and I actually get to wear them, which is really nice because they're a bit more my age group feasible. I don't know if you can see this or not. Can you see that? I suggested she did some painting on the jeans. So these are done on the legs, and they're leaves and lots of different leaves. And then when she's come to finish with that, I suggested fraying, and I'm not quite sure whether you can see this or not, but we fray the seams. So just by combing them, and it just adds an additional augmentation to the jeans. So if you see me in these, you'll know I had a hand in the idea. I don't make them, she makes them, but TJ Jeans is going to be a big name in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Well, as we guaranteed, Ann's a great storyteller. And I was wondering about that enhancement button. I'm still trying to figure out what the F1 key does on my computer. I didn't realize there was an enhancement button, but I'm going to start.
Well, I've never found it again. That's the problem. I don't know where it is now. I mean, I pressed it and I'm hoping that it's still working, but I haven't found it again.
Well, Ann, try that F1 button and see what happens. So anyway, well, thank you very much, Ann. And before we move on, Brett, was there anybody else on Zoom who wanted to tell a story tonight? Did anybody put that in chat at all? Oh, I'm sorry. You're in charge of chat. Okay. So Maggie's going to be telling a story now. Maggie's always tells wonderful Southern stories, but tonight she's going to be telling a story from Liberia about cows.
Okay. Am I in here right?
Yeah, hang on.
Okay. So thank you all for coming tonight. It's wonderful to have you here at the Story Guild. And this story, like Stet said, is an African folk tale from Liberia. And it's called The Cowtail Switch. There once was a hunter. His name was Ogalusa. And Ogalusa lived in a village. And this village was surrounded by rice fields and cassava fields. There was a river next to the village, and across from the river was the rainforest of Liberia. Now he lived with his wife and his many, many sons in a round clay house. And the fires were built inside the house for cooking, and the smoke would go out through the roof covered with palm leaves. Now the people of the village, they tended cows in the grasslands nearby. They fished with nets in the river. They worked in the rice fields. And one day, Ogalusa took down his weapons from the hut, and he went out of the village, through the rice fields, across the river, and into the forest. And that day, his many sons and his wife worked for their food. And that evening, as darkness came, they gathered and they had their meal, and they remarked their father had not come home yet. They wondered about it. And the next day, he still did not come. And the next day, he wasn't coming home. They wondered about it. They didn't know where he had gone. They didn't know what had happened. And finally, a week went by, and then more weeks. Months went by, and from time to time they would mention it, but then they talked about it no longer. And then one day, Ogalusa's wife delivered yet another son. He was called Pooley. And Pooley grew like all children do. And the little boy grew to sit up, he grew to crawl, and he grew to speak. And his first words were, "Where is my father?" His older brothers looked out across the fields. "Well, he must have gone hunting," one said. "We don't really know where. We don't know what happened to him. He hasn't been back in so long." One of the sons said, "Well, I did see him cross the river." And another son said, "I did see him with his weapons go into the forest." And then one of them said, "Perhaps we should go look for him." And all of the sons gathered their weapons and they went out of the village, through the rice fields, across the river, and into the rainforest. They were walking along a small trail, single file. And soon they lost their way. The trees were so huge, the undergrowth so dense, vines hanging down from the trees. It was dark in the forest. And they lost the trail. And then one of the sons found it and called to them, and they got on the trail again. They wandered through the woods until they came to a clearing. And there on the ground, they saw bones, the bones of a man. And then they saw the weapons, rusty now, but they knew these were the weapons that belonged to their father. And they knew their father had been killed in the hunt. One son stepped forward and said, "I have knowledge. I can put the bones back together in the right position of the body." And he gathered the bones and he put them just so in the right place. Another son said, "I have knowledge, or I can put sinew and flesh on the bones." And he did his work. And there was the body. And there was the body of their father. "I have power. I can put blood into the body," said another. And he worked on the body and the skin took on a healthy glow. "I too have power," said another. "I can put breath into the body." And he worked and they could see Ogalusa's chest rise and fall, rise and fall. "Well, I have power. I know how to put speech into the body." And he worked, and Ogalusa sat up and looked about and spoke. "Where," he said, "are my weapons?" And his sons gathered the weapons and they gave them to him, and they all got up and they started walking along the trail in the woods, back out of the woods, across the river, through the rice fields to the village. And when they got to the village, they walked to their house. Ogalusa went in, his wife received him. She fixed a meal for him and he ate. She fixed a bath for him and he bathed. And he stayed in the house for 4 days. On the 5th day, he emerged and he shaved his head, for that is what the people did when they had come back from the dead. Ogalusa decided to call together a feast to celebrate that he had come back to life. And he killed a cow. And he butchered it, and he took that tail of the cow and he decorated it. He fashioned twine around the stump of the tail. He added colorful beads. He took cowrie shells and added to make it make noise and clang and clack. He added shiny pieces that would reflect the sun. And Ogalusa went about holding up that cow tail switch. And everybody noticed. Everybody saw him coming. Everybody knew that cowtail switch. It was a powerful symbol. And he would come and people would listen to him. And he took it to all the meetings, all the gatherings, the council meetings. And all of the people of the village admired that cowtail switch. It was so beautiful. The feast happened. The feast occurred. And all of the people were invited, the men, the women, the children, and they all came dressed in their finest, bringing their drums, their instruments. And there was food and there was drink, and they played their drums and their music, and they sang and they danced. And the people of the village would see Ogalusa with that switch as he held it aloft over his head, and many of the men began to covet that switch. And they would come up to him. They were so bold. Will you give it to me, Ogalusa? I want that switch. So many men came up to him. They were all clamoring for it. And then the women and the children came and they all were begging him for that switch. And there was such chaos, such a clamor, everyone wanting it. And Ogalusa held up that switch and he said, quiet. And he said, I have but one switch. I have decided I will give it to one of my sons. I will give it to the son who has done the most to bring me back from the dead. Now, all of my sons did something to bring me, but I will give it to the one who did the most. Well, right away, one of the sons said, well, I found the trail in the woods. Well, we would have never found him if it weren't for me. I deserve it the most. But another son said, no, I put flesh on the body. But no, said another, I put the bones together, but I gave him breath. That was most important. But I put blood in the veins, said another. And the sons began to argue who deserved the switch. And then the people of the village, they began. Some would say, yes, the son who gave him the blood, that was most important. But other people in the village, no, the one who gave him speech, that was the most important. The people of the village were all arguing about which son should deserve it. And Ogalusa held up the switch. He waved it back and forth and said, quiet. And he said, I have decided. I have decided on the son who should deserve the switch. And Ogalusa knelt down on the ground and he handed the switch to Puli, the young one, the young boy who had been born when he was away. And he handed the switch to Puli. And all of the brothers hung their heads. And all of the people of the village, they nodded in agreement. Oh, yes, they said, Puli, he is the one. For it is a saying amongst the people of Liberia and many of the countries there in West Africa that a man is not truly dead as long as he is remembered.
Thank you, Maggie, for that wonderful tale from Liberia. So we have people who tell stories from all over the world and all types of stories, tall tales and short tales and everything in between. So I think tonight we're going to have Toby come up and tell us a story. So you'll see the most animated teller you've ever seen in your life when Toby's here. So I might need to adjust this a little bit. Let me get this thing.
Go undo the down below, loosen that thing that's on the upper. Down. Move
This
it.
one?
This one,
Yeah,
okay.
do that. Lower it
Still
down.
getting checked out here, folks. So here we go.
More.
Sorry, folks.
Good, that's good.
There we are.
I'm in the box.
You're in the box.
Okay.
There you are.
Move your feet.
No.
I'll try not to.
6 inches one way or the other. That's it.
Thanks, Dad. Thank you. This story I want to tell you is honor of Earth Day. When I would visit my grandmother when I was growing up, it was like going into an Asian curio museum. I was gravitated towards this one table, and it looked like there were little translucent brown marble-looking figures on display. And she came to me, Toby-chan, you're looking at amber. I said, amber? Yes, amber, which is made from resin from matsu, pine trees. Now look closely. So I took one. There's a spider in it. Oh, this one has an ant. Oh, Toby, these are very, very old. I want to tell you the story of Matsuno Oji-san, grandfather pine tree. And my grandma would always start her stories off with Mukashi Mukashi. Long ago in Japan, there was a village. Outside of the village lived an old man. He was a woodcutter and he lived with his wife. Every morning he would go out, collect branches that were from on the ground, and he'd carry them because, well, he needed to go to the village to sell this. And as he was walking, he could smell the wonderful air from the pine trees. Isn't nature so wonderful that we can live together? Ah, and he stood by this mighty big matsu pine tree. And then he heard, crunching of leaves. It's my neighbor, Buntaro. Buntaro came. Hey, Saburo, I have my axe, this mighty pine tree. Why, it will fetch you lots of money. Just take one of the branches off. Saburo shook his head. Buntaro-san, don't you realize when you do this, you are harming the trees. We live together with the trees. We talk with them. We communicate with them. Ah, Saburo, you think like that? No wonder you are such a poor man. And Buntaro walks off. Saburo kind of scratched his head. So desu ne. Will that man ever learn? Well, 2 days later, Saburo is out again, picking the branches, when the wind started to blow, and he thought he heard a whisper. Tatsuke, help! Itai desho ne? I'm in such pain. Help! Where's this? It's in the woods. So he walked at a very fast pace until he came across this beautiful pine tree that was weeping sap. Oh, Tatsuke, please help. I am in such pain. Sap dripping from me. Please help me. So desu ne, of course I will. And Saburo ripped off the under part of his kimono and he wrapped it around all the wounds that happened to be there on this poor pine tree, the sap that was dropping down. You poor thing, I hope you will get better soon. And then again, he heard this crunching leaves. Buntaro-san. I see you're right by the mighty pine tree again. It's time you take one of the limbs off, like I have. And sure enough, there was Buntaro. His arms were full of these branches that were just dripping with resin, that sap. Saburo shook his head. Buntaro, you are harming the tree. How would you feel if the tree ripped your limb off? Don't talk nonsense. And again, Saburo, I tell you, I provide provide for my family. How about you? And off he left. Ah, Saburo just shook his head. And as he did that, a wind picked up and swayed the branches on this pine tree. And Saburo felt something falling on his shoulders. Gold coins. And he picked them up and put it in his satchel. It was a gift from the tree. Arigatou gozaimasu, he said to the tree. And the tree gave a sigh of relief. Oh, Saburo, quickly! Keiko, I must tell Keiko, my wife, what we have was such good fortune. She did. Keiko said, oh my goodness, we're rich. And then Saburo told her the whole story. The next day, Keiko takes that bundle with her and she buys niku, meat, which is so expensive, and went to the market and bought this and that and vegetables and fruit for a celebration. Buntaro was watching. たくさんのお金ありますかね? Lots of money. Where did she get from? Buntaro went to Keiko. Keiko-san! You have たくさんお金ね. You have lots of money. Where did you get it? Suddenly. Well, Keiko couldn't help it. She just spilled the beans and told Buntaro everything. And Buntaro quickly left. I know where to go. And he went into the forest. There, he saw the mighty pine tree. The mighty pine tree looked down on him. And Buntaro bowed in honor of this tree. And the tree said, sap, sap, sap. Someone has wounded me. Sap, sap, sap. I will rain on them. Of course, Buntaro was thinking, yeah. Sure enough, he got rained on. Rained on with sap and that sticky resin, and it just coated him like a cocoon and attached himself onto the tree. Let's get that, help, help. No one heard him. The sun was setting. Saburo was on his way home, and he was so happy because his wife was going to make such a delicious meal tonight. When he heard, let's get that, help, let's get that, Pappy. And he ran to where the sound came from. Buntaro-san, what a mess you have gotten yourself into. Oh, Tatsuke, please help me. Saburo, please. Well, Saburo was able to pry him off of the tree, and he was just sticky with the resin. By the time he brought Buntaro to his house, Buntaro was just filled with dirt and sticks and leaves from all that stickiness. Ba, 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 ba. And Buntaro, what has happened to you? Exclaimed his wife. Come. Thank you, Saburo. Thank you. Well, from that day on, Buntaro and all his descendants had much respect for trees and nature. And for Saburo, his kindness, he gained such respect from his village. And my grandma would turn to me and say, birthday is coming up, Toby. Be careful when you pick those flowers, Nick.
Well, thank you. Grandmas are pretty special, aren't they? And nobody always tells about her grandmother. I think it's great. So we've got one more storyteller tonight. We have storytellers in our guild. For example, Ingrid's from Homer, Alaska. We have Mitch Nelson, who lives in Wyoming and often drives all the way here to Olympia to tell stories. We've got John from up in Squim, who comes down 101 just to tell stories every month. So John's going to get up and tell a story about growing up in Juneau and the Star Hill Gang. And it's amazing what these kids were, what, maybe 10 years old, were up to. So I didn't have as exciting a life as you did. Come on up and tell the story, John.
It's good, it's good.
It's good. Okay. Don't full success.
Thank you, it's good enough for John. Everybody's heard of Goldilocks, the little girl that broke into the bear's house, ate the porridge, broke up the furniture, short-sheeted the beds. And what did she get out of it? A fairy tale. And that's how I started. But the difference was she had 3 bears. I had 1 mother. I'd rather have the 3 bears. I heard my mother telling my sister Blister that they were going to walk down to Harry Race drugstore and get some pills. I think she said they were horse pills, so I knew they were for Blister, not me. So Mom came over to me and said, Johnny, now can you behave for 1 hour? And I looked at my mother like I always do with honesty in my eyes. Yes. Okay, it was going to be an hour to read some comic books. Okay, I couldn't read. I just like to look at pictures. So I watched them walk down Star Hill. When they got out of sight, I ran into the kitchen and I opened up our refrigerator. Remember those refrigerators that sounded like they had mice fighting in them all the time? I opened it up, pushed a chair over, climbed up just like stapled, just like him. There was a big ice box, not that big. And right on the bottom of that ice box was a silver flat something. I took it out, climbed down, put it on the table. I unfolded it real carefully and smiled. Remember the big Hershey bars that had all those little squares? Oh, my mother would give each of us, Blister, my brother Ludnick, and me, 1 square after every meal, dinner. My brother said it tastes like bark. He didn't like it. So my sister and I would share that last piece. Now, she would always break it and give the bigger piece to one of us. I don't think it was me, but it was okay. So I got him, and now I looked at that bar and I started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. I was pretty smart for my age. So I tried it again. 1, 2, 3. Now there's only 3 there. Maybe I'll try down. 1. I can't count down. That's a lot different counting down than it is across. So I just thought, why not break just a couple off? That kind of looked neat. So I broke a couple more. And I thought, well, I better wrap it up. And when I heard this voice, 2 more, she won't know. I looked around and my tummy was gurgling and it couldn't see, but it knew. So I broke 2 more off. Started. Take 2 more, she won't see. Boom, boom. I put them over there, wrapped it all up, put it up in the ice box. Now, Goldilocks, she had porridge. She had a plan. Little Johnny had chocolate. He didn't have anything except an empty stomach. Now he took all those little pieces over to the windowsill in the front room to watch for his mom and Blister to coming back up. Now his dad was a fireman. He was going to be a fireman too. So he thought, let's make a house. So he made a house out of these little things. And then he got the fire truck. And this is pretend. And he started the house on fire. And he got that fire truck to come over. And he took 2 pieces off and he ate them. And that saved a couple more. And he did this again. Now he's down to 4 pieces. Oh, this is good. But the trouble, that fire was so hot, that chocolate was melting. So he ate 2 more real quick. He looked out the window and there was his mother and Blister just at the bottom of the stairs. He shoved those other 2 pieces in, swallowed them, breathed chocolate, wiped them off, grabbed Casper the Friendly Ghost and jumped into his dad's stuffy chair. He heard the door open and close. Hi, honey, where are you at? I'm in the stuffy chair, Mom. I'm reading like you thought I should. Okay, well, that's wonderful. You know, you should have come with us because I bought Carla an ice cream cone. Oh, Mom, did you give me one too? About then, she was pretty close to me, and she looked at me. What did you get all over you? Nothing. John, come here. I took one step. John, what did you got into the chocolate? Why did you get into that chocolate? That chocolate's for you and Carla. That is a treat. Where did you find the chocolate? It was in the icebox. Why did you go in the icebox? Well, Mom, in the icebox, things, our milk is always sour. And I smell it and we throw it away. I didn't want that chocolate to sour. How many did you take? One, I think, and my stomach started to make that noise again. Maybe 2. John, I'd like you to go upstairs and think about what you've done. You have stolen the chocolate. There will be no more treats until you think of what you do. You come back downstairs, apologize to your sister and me, and explain this. Mom, I didn't steal, I borrowed. Dad goes next door and he borrows a nail from Fred. He comes over and he hammers it into a piece of wood. He doesn't give it back to Fred. He borrowed it. John, go upstairs now. Up I go in my room and pretty soon open the door and I get down on my tummy and I put my head over by the top of the stairs and because I wanted to hear what they had to say. And I closed my mouth because my dad says, you hear better when you have a mouth shut. So I listening and I can just kind of hear him. Then I hear the refrigerator opening. And I hear it closing and I hear, John Harold, get down here now. Well, I kind of stood up, ran into my bedroom and slammed the door. And I got down into that position like they do. You see them in church. And I said, Goldilocks, how did you do it? You stole. You wrecked the beds. You did everything. How did you do it? And I heard this voice. Run. Thank you.
Don't rush off, John.
Thank you, Johnny. Well, the stories keep coming in. They're good. In fact, John has actually a little book with all of Star Hill Dang stories in it. So it's very entertaining. So I think we're just about at the end of the evening. We'd really like to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of our hearts for coming and listening to the stories. Ingrid's great story in Shackleton, and then Toby, Maggie, and John, and Ann Penfound following up in the story swap. Remember, second Wednesday in May, we'll be right back here again. Come and listen to some stories. Tell us a little story. We're a very friendly group. And then in June, we'll be over at Traditions, and that will be, again, another special evening for everybody. So we hope we'll see you. We hope you all met somebody new tonight. And happy storytelling. And thank you again for listening.